Hello everyone, this is V-Man. Super Mario Galaxy is a game filled with a large assortment of memorable levels. These include surreal settings like intergalactic war machines and gigantic toy rooms, along with more familiar ones like deserts, gardens, and beaches. With all these unique set pieces, I would be surprised if any one of the game's many galaxies wasn't at least one person's favorite. Except, there is one galaxy where I could see this being the case. Not because it's unfun or poorly designed, but because its single planet with the galaxy's only power star doesn't do a lot to stand out, at least at first glance. Of course, I'm referring to none other than Drip Drop Galaxy. Drip Drop Galaxy is unlocked by feeding 600 star bits to the hungry Luma found outside the kitchen on the Comet Observatory. It's one of the smallest galaxies in the game, consisting of only one small planet composed mostly of water. In that water are two floating grassy islands, along with a sandy core covered with various objects such as sunken ships, large shells, and stone walls. It's also inhabited by several penguins, some urchins, a few spiny Cheep Cheeps, and 3 Gringills that must be defeated to obtain this galaxy's power star. For most people, this is where their thoughts on Drip Drop Galaxy end. I, however, am not most people. Ever since I was a kid, this galaxy has stuck out to me as one of the most interesting, bizarre, and even uncanny areas in the game, despite its simplicity and small size. So what is it about Drip Drop Galaxy that allows it to linger on my mind more than most people's? To start, let's double back on the setting. Drip Drop Galaxy is one of the very few galaxies to consist of only one planet, and a pretty small one at that. Looking past its lone palm tree and shallow atmosphere reveals nothing but the vastness of space, making it feel incredibly isolated, even by Super Mario Galaxy standards. Ironically, this loneliness is amplified by the presence of sapient life in the galaxy in the form of several penguins. Other similar galaxies like Flip Switch Galaxy and Bonefin Galaxy don't have the same atmosphere since they either lack any other living creatures, or are so far removed from reality that they feel like video game levels first and locations second. Drip Drop Galaxy, however, feels just real enough to be believable, but also small enough to convey a sense of dread that's hard not to feel when something so insignificant is measured up against the cosmos. This feeling is further conveyed by the music that plays in this galaxy. The soundtrack here is one of the creepiest in the game, having a synthy melody backed up by notes that sound like dripping water, along with periodic bird chirping sounds, despite no birds being found in the galaxy. Well, besides the penguins, but you get the idea. It certainly is a weird song to hear, but I think it suits the level pretty well. Of course, the drip-like notes feel like they belong in a water level called Drip Drop Galaxy, and the chirping ties in well with the idea that the planet is inhabited, but I think the real star of the piece is the synth. Often, Super Mario Galaxy uses the synth to sound alien, like it does for the music in Buoy Base Galaxy and Melty Molten Galaxy. Here though, it sounds eerie, almost haunting, like something is wrong with the galaxy beyond just the eels. It's as if the music itself is trying to tell you just how far this tiny planet is from the comfort and safety of home. Even the name of this galaxy contributes to this feeling. The name Drip Drop obviously plays well into the aquatic theme, along with the aforementioned dripping sounds in its music, but I think the name conveys something deeper as well. The word drop in the name, for example, seems to have a double meaning. The first is more literal, being a play on not just the water engulfing the planet, but also its form being that of a drop of water. The second is more metaphorical. A drop is one of the smallest amounts of water, while this galaxy is one of the smallest and dreariest in the game. This link becomes even more apparent when looking at the name for this galaxy in most other languages: Teardrop Galaxy. This name, on top of everything else, makes it seem as though the planet itself is the tear of a sorrowful, lonely universe. While this loneliness is interesting enough on its own, it does bring up another important question. When you first arrive in Drip Drop Galaxy, there are several penguins you can talk to, and besides the ones giving swimming tutorials and reminding us of Penguru's advancing age, they're all talking about how several Gringills have invaded the waters. But where did the Gringills come from? It's not like they came from the planet itself, since it's so small and doesn't have any caves for them to hide in. They also likely didn't come from another planet, since there aren't any others in the galaxy. But really, I think there's a more important question to be asked. Where did anything on this planet come from? How did the penguins, sunken ships, and treasure chests end up in Drip Drop Galaxy to begin with? As mentioned earlier, this galaxy was created mere moments before the player's arrival thanks to the hungry Luma Mario fed in the Comet Observatory. So does that mean that everything in the galaxy, including the invading Gringills and the penguins they take fish from, were also only just created? As it turns out, the answer is probably yes. In fact, we can actually see this firsthand in other galaxies. In Good Egg Galaxy, for example, feeding the hungry Luma causes it to transform into a new planet inhabited by several Goombas, meaning that the hungry Luma actually created not just the planet, but the life on it as well. So what does that mean for the Gringill infestation back in Drip Drop Galaxy? Did it actually happen the way the penguins say that it did? I don't think so. This is due to a real-world theory that relates surprisingly well to both this level and Super Mario Galaxy as a whole, called the Omphalos hypothesis. Perhaps better known by its derogatory nickname of Last Thursdayism, the Omphalos hypothesis is a belief held by a small minority of creationists that proposes that the timeline of events laid out in the Bible is entirely literal. This would mean that the Earth is no more than a few thousand years old, as opposed to the roughly 4.5 billion years old that scientists estimate. Proponents of this hypothesis claim that any evidence we have of the universe being older than several thousand years, such as ancient ruins or distant supernovas, is simply false evidence placed by God in order to give the illusion of an older universe. While the arguments for the Omphalos hypothesis in the real world are shaky at best, the principle behind it seems quite fitting for Drip Drop Galaxy. After all, we see its creation firsthand, and most players will visit it almost immediately afterward, so the galaxy as we find it is more or less what it was like at the instant of its creation. This means that the penguins' memories of not just the Gringill infestation, but also those of catching fish and every other event that they remember, are simply fake. This has some surprisingly dark implications. How much of what happened to the characters we know is real? How are we to know that a hungry Luma didn't create Mario's home galaxy just before the events of Yoshi's Island, or even mere moments before the plot of this game kicked off? While I don't think that's the case, there really isn't much of a way to debunk this theory either, especially since Super Mario Galaxy ends with the universe being reset, almost as if nothing had happened. But one thing's for sure, if I knew for a fact that it was possible that Earth was created so recently, despite my and everyone else's memory saying otherwise, that would certainly cause a lot of psychological problems for me going forward. But that's precisely the reality those in Drip Drop Galaxy live in. So perhaps it's best that they're left in a blissful ignorance of how they were created. But even if they did know, the galaxy would still continue on without us. Even after we bring the galaxy and its inhabitants into existence, visit them, save them from their turmoil, and leave with the Power Star, that's not the end of their story. The lives these creatures lived before our arrival may not be authentic, even in the context of the game, but the events they have yet to experience will be genuine ones. It may be a bittersweet ending for the inhabitants of Drip Drop Galaxy, but at least there's some solace in knowing that, going forward, their little blue planet can be the true home they remember it to be. Lonely, but peaceful. And with that, my dissection of Drip Drop Galaxy is complete. What did you think of my observations? Do you think I covered everything? Or are there some details I overlooked? Let me know in the comments. I decided to make this video after a recent playthrough of Super Mario Galaxy reminded me of this level and all the weird feelings I've had about it over the years. I think Drip Drop Galaxy is an interesting case study on how Super Mario Galaxy makes the player feel about the universe and their place in it, whether the developers intended for it to be or not. This also isn't the last of this sort of video I plan to make, as I have at least one other galaxy I think deserves its own discussion. If you think there are any other peculiar galaxies that warrant a similar deep dive, be sure to suggest them in the comments. And also be sure to leave a like and subscribe while you're at it. With all that said, my name is V-Man, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care.